Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio today, very special guest. We've got Mark Herberholz, Head of Operations of iTeam Network. Mark, great to have you on board here for the videos. And we're proud to announce a partnership with WagerTalk and iTeam Network. And why don't you explain to our viewers what iTeam Network is all about?
So iTeam Network is a host of a bunch of daily fantasy sites, and what made WagerTalk a great partner is because you got a ton of guys who love sports and they love to put money on sports. So by having WagerTalk become a part of the network, you can go and you can essentially play fantasy sports for money, similar to some of the bigger ones out there like FanDuel or DraftKings. And what kind of makes the network unique is we have a bunch of partners like WagerTalk, and all the players across all the skins can play against each other. So that helps us grow our player base, which translates into a lot bigger prizes and a lot more action on the website.
Yeah, and obviously daily fantasy sports has been a growing business, and there is a direct correlation between fantasy sports and betting sports. You're handicapping the games, you're handicapping players and situations, and that definitely works to your advantage for playing daily fantasy. And we're going to get to some strategy in a moment, but we're offering a special introductory offer for everybody to try this site out. And we're going to be offering a $20 match bonus you guys are doing, and then we're doing something too. So explain how the match bonus works.
Yeah, we wanted to make something really simple that you can just understand. So it's deposit $20. We'll go ahead and credit you another $20 in your account. As soon as you play through the deposit and the initial bonus, you can cash whatever you want out. So it's essentially a one-time rollover. Deposit 20, get an extra 20, you have 40 bucks to play with.
Great stuff. And then we're going to make that deal a little bit sweeter. If you email support@WagerTalk, we're going to turn around and give you $20 in wager bucks to put in your account to spend at WagerTalk. So in essence, you're free rolling because the 20 you put into the daily fantasy site, we're going to give to you. And I'll tell you a little bit at the end of the video how we'll up that even better. But you're also you're somebody that knows a lot about daily fantasy. You play it yourself, and you're pretty good at it. And we'll talk about one of your scores in a minute. But share some strategy that you could, for guys that are just starting out and want to play daily fantasy, the different types of tournaments and the different ways you attack them.
Yeah, you know, I was a real big player before I got a job with a daily fantasy website. You know, I can't play anymore, but I learned a lot of things along the way. There's a couple real basic strategies. First is for what you'd call a cash game, a heads-up tournament or a 50-50 tournament in which half the field wins prizes. And that's just very simple, you know, kind of build a good stuff lineup. You got your stud pitchers, like maybe a Kershaw, and then you have your value batters, like maybe you got someone on the Phillies who's hitting in the 3 spot, pretty cheap price, but it's a pretty good scenario for you. Or you have maybe someone a little bit more well-known, like Miguel Cabrera, who's facing a weak pitcher, and maybe we underpriced him today. So it's about finding the value to let you buy those higher-priced players like Kershaw. And then the flip side is when you enter what's called a GPP, and that's like a big field tournament, kind of similar to a poker tournament where it has a top-heavy payout. And for that, you really have to understand that to beat, you know, hundreds or even thousands of people, you kind of need the stars to align. So a good strategy for that is what's called stacking, and that's where you get about 3 to 4 players on the same MLB team on your lineup. So while you're not going to have consistent scores night over night, the time that you have 3 Tigers and the Tigers put up 10 runs that day, that means your guys got a lot more at-bats, probably got a lot of hits, probably got a lot of runs. All that translates into fantasy points. So it's going to put you in such a great position against the rest of the field.
And you're also putting yourself in, you're not doing the norm where everybody else is doing, because if everybody has the same lineups, you know, like you say, you know, half of the field's going to be moving up the ladder at the same time. You got to be different, but moving up. So
exactly,
good move there. And you know what you're talking about. You've made some nice scores. You've recently had an addition to your family. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You got, I understand, a pretty nice present shortly after the arrival of your baby. With a boy or girl?
Baby boy.
Baby
named
boy.
Rockwell.
Okay. What was the little prize that you got? Nice start to the college tuition fund?
Yeah, so I had a few months span in between jobs in the daily fantasy sports industry, so I was eligible to be playing again on other websites. And while I'm sitting in the hospital, 2 days after my son's born, my mom and baby are asleep, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, good time to throw a few lineups in DraftKings. Ended up putting one of the lineups, winning $100,000, taking first in a $20 tournament they had that weekend. And the strategy that I used was the one I just described. I had Russell Wilson and his top 2 receivers, Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, and that was one of the weeks where he just went off for 5 touchdowns. Yeah. And the reason that I got so far ahead is because while some people may have had Wilson and Baldwin, they didn't also have Lockett. And because he was the minimum price, that let me get a ton of studs on my lineup.
Great stuff. And, the daily fantasy, like we said, the business has been, growing, around the country. And yeah, there's some states right now that, you can't play in, but I think before too long, we'll see it all around, and hopefully that parlays into. I'm rooting for fantasy sports to go, nationwide, because then I think that also opens up the door for the other issues with, sports betting on the same scheme.
Exactly, and when you see what the professional sports leagues are doing, you look at Silver in the NBA. He's basically said, I think that sports betting and daily fantasy sports should be legal. I don't get why it's not. And when you look at the leagues, it's definitely better for them to just legalize it, because it's way easier to figure out if any player is involved in anything shady, any ref, any umpire, whatever. By having all these offshore websites handle the sports betting, it's just harder to get the information from them. So by legalizing it and regulating it, it's going to open up the lines of communication, and at the end of the day, make the sports leagues be able to catch anything like that.
It's been the Nevada books that anytime that there has been some, something not kosher, with a game, it's been the books out here that have alerted the NCAA and whatever to do it, because trust me, they're watching everything coming through.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mark, this was absolutely great stuff. We're going to be back and do another video with you where if you thought this was interesting, we got some more stories. You've had quite the life. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
32.
32. Wow. You've accomplished a lot, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Hey guys, I told you we were going to make this deal even sweeter. If you mention when you email support that you opened up a daily fantasy account, we're going to put $20 in your account of WagerBucks. But if you mention you also saw the video, we're going to add another $20, giving you a total of $40 in WagerBucks to spend anywhere you want on the site. So for a $20 investment in the daily fantasy, you're actually going to get $40 from us, and you'll get another $20 from the daily fantasy site, iTeam Network. Check it out at WagerTalk.com. You'll see links to join. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk.com.